It's that time of year again. It's time to make videos about games that happened throughout the year. Now, of course, this is going to be a personal and subjective list because I just haven't played every single game that came out this year. That happens when you're human, so don't be offended if something is left out. I like the games I like, and that is that. You might like them, you might not. Whatever the case may be, here is my top 17 best games of the year 2013. And so, without further ado, or a don't, let's get right to number 17, Lost Planet 3. I highly enjoyed Lost Planet 1, but I hated Lost Planet 2 so much that I really didn't give a second glance to the third, at least at first, but boy am I glad I did because this is quite the fun prequel to the first game with a bit of Dead Space thrown in for good measure. It's actually a kind of space western, if that makes any sense. There's just something about roaming around the world in a giant mech taking random quests while listening to a futuristic country and western soundtrack that appeals to me. Number 16, Peggle 2. When I wasn't mindlessly clicking cookies or building megapolises, this is the casual game I went for this year. Take the simple yet insanely compulsive gameplay of the first one, expand on every bit of it, and make it an Xbox One exclusive for some dumb reason, and there you go. It's Peggle, again, and it's as charming as ever, and that is precisely what I wanted. Number 15, Cabela's African Adventures. I've never played any of the Cabela's Adventures games before this one, but I've gotta say I'm a fan now. Make no mistake, it's a budget title and you can tell, but the gameplay really surprised me. Take most of the stuff from the last two Far Cry games, strip out the shooting of dudes and replace it with the shooting of animals only, and you'll end up with something like this. Number 14, Crysis 3. I'm a bit torn with Crysis games at this point. On the one hand, this takes the next logical step from Crysis 2, expanding the gameplay options and giving you some larger zones to explore. On the other hand, it's pretty much just Crysis 2.5, and the story jumped so many sharks it's ridiculous. Still, I can't deny how much fun I had stealthing around with a bow in this one. Number 13, Shadow Warrior. A remake of the 1997 classic from 3D Realms, Shadow Warrior isn't actually a remake at all, but is more of a reboot, so never mind. It was between this and Rise of the Triad for me, and unlike Rise of the Triad, also from this year, it isn't mostly a graphical update to the old game, but rather goes all out with its evolution and becomes its own thing, and for that it stands apart. It's its own bloody, ridiculously fun slice-and-dice thing, and holy crap, that sword is amazing. Number 12, Papers, Please. There is no reason for an investigative puzzle game about a fictional Soviet country's immigration officer to be so engaging, but holy crap is it. The depth of the gameplay and the emotional toll the game had on me as I tried to weigh my morals, my responsibility, and my fear of the authorities, it shocked me and is just like nothing else I've played. Glory to Arstotzka. Number 11, Need for Speed Rivals. While I was not a big fan of last year's Most Wanted rehash by Criterion, Ghost Games did a superb job with this in my book. Not only does it have the benefit of not being a reboot, but it takes the best elements from games like Test Drive Unlimited, Burnout Paradise, and Blur, and mixes them into one of the most thoroughly satisfying arcade racers I've played in a long time. Number 10, The Last of Us. Yeah, this one's only at number 10 for me. It may have well been my game of the year if it weren't for one thing. One big thing, the gameplay. Now the story, atmosphere, characters, level design, and that Naughty Dog touch, amazing. But the gameplay just felt bland to me. It was completely flat and made me not even want to see the story through to its conclusion. It felt brutal, but that was about it. Still, I am very glad I saw this one through. Number 9, Beyond, Two Souls. Quantic Dream has a kind of love 'em or hate 'em thing going on. David Cage's games are more like interactive movies nowadays, and Beyond is no exception. But for being basically a modern FMV adventure game, it's also one of the most enthralling things from this year. Ellen Page, Willem Dafoe, and the other actors are superb, and the story and pacing had me hooked from start to finish. That homeless scene, holy crap. Number 8, Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon. Yeah, this standalone game based on Far Cry 3 has been described as what Duke Nukem Forever should have been, and I agree. Solid shooting gameplay, great humor, an incredible soundtrack, titanium-plated cyber dragons, and tons of one-liners spouted by the excellent Michael Biehn. This is 80s action movie and pop culture skewering heaven, and I seriously hope for more of this before too long. Number 7, BioShock Infinite. I don't even know what to say except wow, this game is kind of in a league of its own as far as shooters go. BioShock has always been something special since the first one, and this really goes out of its way to scream video games are art to me. A mind-bending story, one of the best companions I've ever seen, incredible acting and art direction and music and on and on. And yeah, I really enjoyed the combat too. Skyhooks, yo! Number 6, Dead Rising 3. So, Dead Rising 2, it was one of my favorite games of the last generation. This looked like a huge departure from that game, but once I got my hands on this, my fears were chopped into little pieces and set on fire. While it's a bit darker and grittier in both look and tone, there's no shortage of silliness on offer here. Plus, there's just way more of everything. Hundreds of weapons and combos, a friggin' huge world, and gratuitously satisfying gameplay. Oh, and the Roller Hog is now one of my favorite video game vehicles ever. Number 5, Gone Home. This game rattled me to my core. I'm still not sure how or why, but Gone Home is an experience I won't forget. I guess the most direct comparison I can make is to the also excellent Dear Esther, but this is a lot more hands-on and personal. Not to mention nostalgic for me, being based in 1995. I don't want to say too much, but you explore a big 7th guesty-style house in the dark during a thunderstorm, try to find out what happened to its inhabitants through clues left behind, and just soak in some of the best atmosphere and memorable characters in recent memory. Number 4, Assassin's Creed 4. Assassin's Creed 3 sucked, and as such, both myself and a lot of people I know were turned off to the 4th. But Jesus, mate, just don't let this one pass by. Ubisoft Montreal smartly latched on to the naval combat of the 3rd game and ran with it, creating one of the best virtual worlds of piracy and gaming. You've got a huge part of the Caribbean to explore, a satisfying main storyline, tons of side quests and crafting, and the protagonist actually isn't as boring and relatable as a pile of bricks, so that's nice. Number 3, Saints Row 4. This game is stupid in the best way, and I love it. While it may disappoint fans that long for another game more like Saints Row 2, this one satisfies in ways I never expected from the series. But wow, it works. Think of it as Saints Row the 3rd meets Crackdown with a bit of Prototype and Infamous thrown in, and then just like Aliens and a bunch of other crap. Not to mention some of the funniest and most self-aware writing this year with tons of memorable moments and gameplay that just feels good. Yes, it's a big departure, but props to Volition for keeping the series fresh. Number 2, Metro Last Light. This may just be the most enjoyable first-person shooter I've played since Half-Life 2. I do not say that lightly. In fact, it reminds me of that game in more than a few ways, and that's nothing but a good thing. The setting, the shooting, the exploration, the characters, the story, it's stuck with me vividly ever since I played it, and it's one of those I know I'll be going back to play again and again. I wasn't even the biggest fan of the first game, but this one blew me away at least once during every level, and considering the developers at 4A Games and their harsh working conditions while making this is just that much more of an incredible feat of game design. And number 1, Cookie Clicker. Actually, I could make an argument for putting this at number 1, but no. My number 1 is, of course, Grand Theft Auto 5. As superb as Last Light was, this is the one game that I put the most time into this year, and that is that. Between the top-notch single-player game and the highly interesting but flawed online game, GTA 5 may be the crown jewel of the last console generation. The 3-character main story is a million times more interesting than 4's, the world of San Andreas is bigger and more detailed than anything Rockstar has done previously, the music is great, the graphics, I don't even know how they managed this on the old hardware, and the gameplay has been improved all over the place. As far as open-world games in a modern-day setting go, this is the cream of the crop. And that's it for my top 17, whether you agree or not, really doesn't matter. Go ahead and leave comments telling me what your favorite games of the year were, and we'll see a prime example of individuality in action. I do have a few honorable mentions, though, that could have made the list had a few of the other games towards the top of the list not been there. One of them was Tomb Raider, and this is an entire reboot of the series, and yes, it is very impressive, but I don't know, there was just something about it that didn't really click with me. I wasn't that compelled to continue the story very much at all, so it was kind of a slog. I've also got Muri, which is a fantastic little game, a side-scrolling shooter, much in the vein of Duke Nukem 1 by Apogee. It's a DOS-style platformer, and that alone is just freaking amazing to me. It's a very, very short game, though, but I did have a ton of fun with it. We've also got Forza Motorsport 5 and Gran Turismo 6, and they're both on here because they're both just kind of a bit disappointing. Forza 5 just because it's such a step back from Forza Motorsport 4, and that game was one of the best racing games I've ever played. But it's just got way, way too little content, and it just kind of bored me. Gran Turismo 6, the same kind of thing, I just got bored of it, but that's just because the Gran Turismo games have never really resonated with me terribly much. They have a ton of features that I love, but the overall experience just isn't something that keeps me for very long. I've also got The Stanley Parable, which is an incredible game that I would highly recommend going through, that is just so meta and self-referential, and it's just a commentary on games and all sorts of interactive entertainment in general that is just great. I loved the original mod, but because I have played that mod, this one didn't really hit me in the same exact way. This does a whole lot more though, and is very much worth picking up. And lastly, there's Super Mario 3D World, which I have a feeling I would get a very big kick out of, but I just wasn't able to play it this year. I don't own a Wii U, so who knows if it would have made the list or not, but it looks really frickin' good. And that's all for my top 17 of 2013. I hope you enjoyed seeing my personal take on the games that I found most enjoyable this year, and if you'd like to see other videos that I've done, mostly reviews on games and whatnot, then click some of these, because there's a bunch of them. Or just click subscribe, because I do more stuff every week, and that'll tell you whenever they're out. And as always, thanks for watching.